Emmanuel Chindove is one of the many missionaries who have come to Kyiv to serve within the Embassy of God Church. We decided to interview him to find out what his experience has been over the past 9 months since he got here. He will be telling us some of the negative things and some of the positive things that he has experienced since getting to Ukraine. So Emmanuel, you've been with the church for the past 9 months. Do you mind telling us a bit about your role and what you have been involved in since getting here?
Yes, since my coming to this country, I was involved with the church as the English assistant to the senior pastor, Pastor Sunday Adelaja, and I have been working closely with the English church as a spiritual council member. Worked as one of the English club teachers, teaching English. I also worked with the website team, the God Embassy website team. So that has been mainly my role and involvement with the church during my time here.
Fantastic, thanks for that. Would you mind also sharing with us a bit about your experience over the past 9 months since having come to Ukraine?
Yes, I have had very interesting experiences in Ukraine. I was at first concerned about the language barriers. I was also concerned about finding my way around the place. But I should say that I adapted quickly to the way of life in Ukraine, mainly because the members of the church, they're very welcoming, they're very hospitable, was really taken well care of.
So members of the church have been quite hospitable towards you, but can you tell us a bit about your experience outside the church, perhaps?
I've had good and bad experiences. I'll start off by talking about the good experiences. I've been able to make friends. I've also been able to have people, helping me whenever I get lost. I mean, this is a very big country. I mean, it's a very big city. Sometimes when I couldn't communicate, people who understand a bit of English would actually come to my rescue. Then they would be able to translate. So that's the good experiences I've had. In terms of the negative experiences, I've experienced some elements of racial discrimination, mainly with the militia, because I'm black and they took me to the police. They actually detained me, and thank God for the travel document that I hold. It's from the United Kingdom. It's Her Majesty the Queen's property. They actually took me to court, and when they discovered that I'm actually a resident in the United Kingdom, they actually released me. So since then, I've not had similar kind of experiences.
So, in a nutshell, would you say that there's a lot of racial discrimination or a lot of racism targeted towards the black people?
Oh, not only black people. I mean, it's also targeted to anybody who is from a different racial background. I mean, even some Asian people, even some in fact, Asian, Chinese, Arabic, they face terrible racial discrimination. I could say it has just been the grace of God that has really protected me, because I've heard of cases where people have actually been killed on the basis of their color. I've had comments said to me, but because I didn't understand much of the language, I didn't pay attention. I mean, even if I did understand, I didn't pay much attention, because I just thought these people, they're doing it out of ignorance. But what is interesting is that the racism in this society is very direct. I mean, they don't hide about it. If they hate you for your color, they'll say it in front of your face. So that is how bad the racial discrimination is in this society.
So tell me, there seems to be a lot of hoo-ha, in the media about the Embassy of God at this point in time. What exactly is going on? Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yes. During the 9 months that I've been here in Ukraine, I have actually seen how the church has suffered persecution. One of the reasons being that the church is labeled as a threat by the government in this country, the corrupt government. They don't understand what Embassy of God is. Also, the Orthodox Church, they actually stereotype, they say the church is a sect just because it's not Orthodox. But I have seen how the church has been very supportive to their senior pastor, who has been falsely accused, for being involved in King's Capital. Until to date, there has not been any evidence to prove his involvement whatsoever with King's Capital. I've had the privilege to attend the court sessions, since the first day of the court, and I was moved by the support that Pastor Sunday received on the first day of court. Crowds and crowds of people. People took days off work. People would take time off the university just to come and support their pastor, and they would chant that Pastor Sunday is a very honest man. And I was really moved. These are Europeans, these are Ukrainians, and they so love their pastor. So because of their love for their pastor, that's why they're suffering so much persecution. But despite that, they're not giving up. I'm actually amazed at the church is actually planning to go ahead with a building project, which we'll talk about, at a later stage.
Okay, thank you very much for that. One question that I do want to ask you is, why do you think that the government see the church itself, Embassy of God, as a threat? What is their reason? How are they thinking?
Well, what is interesting about Embassy of God Church is that they are very influential in society. They are actually they've penetrated the 7 spheres of influence. I'm talking of politics. You've got members of Embassy of God in politics. You've got members of Embassy of God in business. Members of Embassy of God in the entertainment industry, in the sports sector, even in the cultural sector, even in the church itself, in the church sector. They are so influential. And in Kyiv alone, membership is more than 30,000. When you talk of the membership of Embassy of God within the whole country, it's more than 2.5 million. So the government really, that big number, when you can actually influence such a big number, the government will find it so uncomfortable. They're very, they're very afraid. Not only that, even the Orthodox Church itself, such kind of a membership, it has never happened before, that a church could have such a membership within this country, let alone within Europe itself.
But surely the church has been able to positively influence the different spheres of society. That must be a good thing.
Oh yeah, definitely. That is a very good thing. Well, the Bible actually says that, darkness could not comprehend the light. The church is the light in the society, in the country. So that darkness that had covered the society of Ukraine, cannot comprehend this light at all. Even other churches, they are amazed by the Embassy of God, the movement. So it's so easy just to label them as a sect because, they're just influenced, they're everywhere. So I have actually been involved with some of the church activities, helping people who cannot actually speak English, teaching them. I've been doing it voluntarily, and some of them have been able to, improve their status, employment-wise. So, that is a positive thing, but not everybody who can appreciate positive things. So that is one of the reasons for such a situation.
So, can you tell us a bit about the projects and the different NGOs that the church is currently involved with?
Oh yes, in fact, the number of NGOs that have been registered through Embassy of God, they're numerous. I mean, I'm talking more than 2,000 NGOs. And not only NGOs, even businesses. People have been able to establish businesses and non-governmental organizations. These non-governmental organizations, I mean, they've been reaching out to people in society who have got different problems. I mean, there's so many problems in this society. So because of these problems, NGOs were established to address those problems and to help as many people as possible. In terms of the business, a lot of business have been established, and they're still being established to be able to help the economy of the country, as well as to create employment for the citizens of this country, as well as to improve the livelihood of of everybody who is a resident of this particular society.
Is it true that the church has a soup kitchen where they feed about 2,000 people, as well as a rehabilitation center where they take in and deal with drug addicts as well as alcoholics?
Oh yes, in fact, it's not only one rehabilitation center. They've got many rehabilitation centers within the city and within the country. The Stephanie Soup Kitchen on a daily basis feeds more than 2,000 people, and the drug and rehabilitation centers, I mean, they've also been duplicated in other countries like Germany. We've got Pastor Natalia, who's also started similar kind of a thing, and also they've got homeless projects.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Emmanuel.
So I'd like to encourage all members of the body of Christ to support us in prayer, to support what God is doing in Kyiv, Ukraine. Apparently, in the middle of the 1st century, Apostle Andrew prophesied about this city. And so what we're doing here is part of what God has decided to do in the last days. And any victory that we secure as the church is a victory for all members of the body of Christ. So please put in your prayers. It's not a very easy place to be. It's not a very easy country to live in and to practice what we believe in. But with your prayers and your support, we trust that God will grant us the victory.
Jesus, we